Life holds a strange paradox. The less you care, the easier everything seems to get. The moment you stop chasing things, stop forcing and clinging to them, everything begins to fall into place as if by itself. Flow begins, resistance fades. This was exactly the life philosophy of Michel de Montaigne, a 16th century philosopher. Montaigne observed the world with curiosity, but without attachment. His reflections led him to ask, why are people constantly stuck in a loop of anxiety, desire, and disappointment? And the answer he found was simple yet profound. Our obsession with control is what makes us feel the most out of control. Think about it. You're trying hard to impress someone. You overanalyze every word, every message, every move. You're aiming for perfection. But all of that effort makes you seem stiff, fake, and unnatural. Now compare that to someone who's relaxed, confident, and simply enjoying the moment. Who do you think comes off as more attractive? This pattern repeats in every area of life. Money, relationships, success. The more you chase something with fear and desperation, the more it slips away from you. But when you stop trying so hard and simply be, when you stop forcing the outcome, things start to align in unexpected ways. Montaigne wasn't saying, don't care, or be lazy. He was saying, let go. When you release the need for things to go a certain way, stress and pain begin to dissolve. And that's when you break free from the cycle that makes you feel constantly not enough. This is where true power begins. Because there's a fascinating psychological rule at play, the law of effort. The harder you force something, the worse the outcome tends to be. The more pressure, the more resistance. It's a lot like struggling to fall asleep. The harder you try, the harder it gets. The more you try to look confident, the more insecure you feel. The more you chase happiness, the more aware you become of your unhappiness. According to the philosopher Montaigne, instead of fighting against life, you should learn to move with it. He noticed that people who constantly plan every detail, force outcomes, and obsess over everything tend to end up the most disappointed. On the other hand, those who take a step back, observe life from a broader perspective and don't cling to every desire, seem to find joy without even trying. Think back to a time when you wanted something so badly. It drained you. Maybe it was a job, a relationship, or a specific result you were after. The more desperately you clung to it, the further it seemed to slip away. That's because when you're holding on too tightly, you're acting from a place of lack. And what you're energetically communicating to the world is, I don't have this. I need this. And the world responds accordingly. Now think about the opposite. The moments when you just didn't care as much, when you were more relaxed, more detached. That's when people, opportunities, and good things seemed to come to you naturally. Why? Because your energy was different. You weren't forcing it, you were allowing it. That's exactly what Montaigne understood at a deep level, the power of letting go. He wasn't saying, don't care, he was saying, don't cling. Take action, yes, but don't suffocate the outcome. Do your best, then let go. Trust that what's meant for you will find you. The strange truth is this. The more you release your need for things to go a certain way, the more things start working in your favor. It's one of life's great paradoxes. The more you relax, the more control you actually gain. But not the kind of control most people think. Because true control doesn't come from holding on tighter, worrying constantly, or micromanaging everything. Real control comes from understanding the nature of life, fluid, unpredictable, and responsive. Because life responds not to desperation, but to energy. And when your energy is grounded in peace rather than panic, the world begins to shift in your favor. Montaigne had witnessed this through real-life observation. He closely studied how people lived, what made some drown in suffering while others managed to find peace even in the middle of chaos. He came to a powerful realization. Most people live in a prison built by their own minds. They believe that happiness, success, or inner fulfillment are things to be pursued. But the harder they chase after them, the more distant those things become. It's like standing in a lake and trying to scoop water into your hand. If you clench your fingers too tightly, the water slips away. But if you relax your palm, the water naturally gathers in it. This is the paradox of right effort. Most people get stuck because they confuse doing with being. They think that if they're not constantly striving, they're failing. But in reality, it's not always about doing more. It's about being aligned. When you're always forcing, worrying, and trying to control the outcome, you unknowingly create resistance. Montaigne's philosophy, however, says the opposite. Life starts to flow in your favor when you allow it to. Take a look at the world's most successful, charismatic, and grounded individuals. You'll notice something. They don't seem desperate. They don't look like they're forcing anything. There's an ease, a sense of clarity, a natural flow in how they move through life. It's not because they don't care. It's because they've mastered the art of letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the obsessive need to control everything. It means stopping the mental spiral of overanalyzing every possible outcome. It means not letting fear dictate your actions. Instead, you act with confidence, because deep down you trust the process. You trust that things will unfold the way they're meant to, and that mindset shift alone can free you from so much stress, anxiety, and disappointment. The moment you no longer need something to happen, you increase the chances that it actually will. People who live with this understanding experience life on a completely different level, one filled with presence, trust, and ease. So now the question is, what would happen if you started living from that place too? When you stop holding on to life so tightly and allow it to flow, it's like coming out of a storm and realizing that you were the one who created the wind all along. Tension, struggle, endless mental conflict. All of it was something we did to ourselves. Montaigne understood this deeply. He had seen how he created his own pain by constantly obsessing in his head, worrying about what others might think, stressing about the future, or wearing past mistakes like badges of honor. What if you just stopped thinking about it? What if you stopped thinking about it in a reckless way? Have you ever wondered how much of your stress comes from actual problems versus what you create in your mind? Montaigne believed that most of your struggles don't come from life itself, but from resisting it. The moment you stop fighting against reality, you gain a strange power. For example, we've all seen this in relationships. Someone who desperately chases after others, overanalyzes every little thing, or worries about being liked, and in doing so, they push people away. Why? Because neediness is repulsive. Helplessness signals a lack, and people can sense that. But when someone lets go, stops overanalyzing, and just enjoys being themselves, everything changes. They become magnetic. They attract people effortlessly. This same principle applies to every area of life. Now, think about the last time you were fully in the moment. Maybe you were in a deep conversation, fully immersed in a creative project, or completely focused on a challenge. Were you forcing it? You weren't obsessed with the outcome. You were just there, and that's why you gave your best performance. Life lifts beliefs and the lightness of humor, and those who are willing to flow rather than control are seen to thrive. Life is unpredictable, but it doesn't constantly disappoint because they don't demand it to be any other way. Here's the paradox. The more you relax, the more life gives you what you want. The universe responds to harmony, not struggle. When you move forward without holding on, you create space for things to come to you naturally. Success, relationships, creativity, and opportunities all arrive when you stop chasing like a hopeless hunter and start pulling like a magnet. Montaigne's teachings remind us that comfort isn't laziness, and letting go isn't giving up. It's a strategy. People who understand this stop fighting the flow and learn to ride the wave. That's when everything becomes more meaningful. So, why do most people struggle with this? Why do we hold on so tightly to control, even when it's clear things are going downhill? Our brains are wired to simplify things and cling to what's familiar. We would rather hold on to painful certainty than take a step into the unknown. This is why people stay in bad relationships, tolerate toxic work environments, and repeat self-sabotaging behaviors. It's not because they don't want better. It's because their brains offer them something familiar, which brings them comfort. Montaigne had observed this in his own time, too. People preferred to hold on to comforting beliefs rather than truths that would set them free. He wrote that our greatest suffering doesn't come from what happens to us, but from how we resist what happens. Think about it. When you fully embrace the unknown, life suddenly stops being stressful and becomes playful. You begin to see uncertainty not as a threat, but as an open-ended game where you can freely experiment and adapt. A perfect example of this is artists, entrepreneurs, and innovators. The most successful people in history are not those who try to control everything. They understood that mastering the art of letting go leads to growth. Take Leonardo da Vinci, for example. If he had insisted on a single fixed goal and a specific path, he wouldn't have become one of the greatest polymaths in history. Instead, he followed his curiosity, moved between disciplines, and abandoned the need to rigidly define himself. As a result, we have gained mastery in many fields, from painting to anatomy, to engineering, to early robotics. The best investors in the world don't panic when the market crashes. Why? Because they understand the nature of cycles. They expect uncertainty, and that's why they stay calm when everyone else is losing their minds. They know that control is an illusion, and that's exactly why they need it. Now, think about your own life. What certainty is holding you back? Maybe it's an identity you're afraid to let go of, or a path you started on but no longer feel aligned with. Yet you continue just because it was your plan. Montaigne's words describe this perfectly. A man who is afraid of suffering is already suffering from what he fears. We are not afraid of reality. We are afraid of losing the illusion of control over it. The moment you stop forcing a certain outcome, something powerful happens. You stop reacting, you respond. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of resisting, you adapt. You see life not as something to be conquered, but as something to create together. He wasn't just talking about philosophy. He was describing a way of navigating the world without tension, without unnecessary suffering, and without constant mental battles. Because in the end, certainty is an illusion, but your ability to adapt is real. The more you embrace this, the freer you become. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing control, life starts to flow in your favor. This isn't because some mystical force is rewarding you for letting go. It's because your mind is no longer working against you. Think about how stress affects people. The more anxious you are, the worse you perform. Speakers who focus too much on not making mistakes freeze on stage. Athletes under pressure perform worse. In relationships, the more you hold on to someone, the more likely they are to walk away. This is a recurring pattern. When you hold on too tightly to something, it slips through your fingers, but when you relax, everything falls into place effortlessly. Montaigne understood this better than most. He had seen people live with fear of losing, fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of the unknown. But what he discovered was that the real enemy was fear itself. People aren't truly afraid of the things they think they are. If you ever stopped worrying about how others see you, you'd realize what I mean. Once you let go of constantly filtering yourself, conversations begin to flow effortlessly. When you stop forcing ideas, creativity will naturally come alive. The moment you let go of wanting something so badly, it often ends up coming to you. So, why is it so difficult for most people? Because we've been taught that control equals security, that everything must be predictable and measurable. We were conditioned to believe that uncertainty is something bad, and letting go is a sign of recklessness. The people who are happiest and most successful aren't the ones clinging to control, but those who embrace uncertainty. They allow life to unfold, they trust, and they adapt. They understand that there's a fine balance between being disciplined and being obsessive, between having structure and feeling suffocated. The truth is, the stress and struggles we face are mental. They are the internal conflicts we don't have to endure. They're already happening. This is change. This is uncertainty. Instead of fearing it, we should see it as an invitation, an opportunity to go with the flow of life rather than resisting it, to shape it without losing our true selves. It's a chance to pivot, to evolve. Because when you stop trying to force your own version of how life should be, that's when life starts to unfold as it is, and everything falls into place. And that's it. Remember, instead of trying to control life, adapting to it will bring you freedom and true peace. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. How did letting go of control change your life? Also, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next video.